contenders and were not pleased to find that they had dropped to 8th. With 60 kilometers of competitive motoring still ahead, they were confident of regaining at least one place. In 9th was Patrick Emonspool and Benoit Doby, who had been treating the Safari with respect by pacing their attack in favor of breaking the car. With the finish now in sight, they had upped their speed and by service had already moved up 2 positions on the leaderboard.
To finish in the top 10 is good in the Safari.
I think so, yes. For old men like me, yeah. My wife will be happy.
The rally chicks, Lola and Megan Verlack, were the only crew in the event representing South Africa, and they were certainly doing so in style. Despite a puncture which they changed in record time, they were lying 10th.
So has this been a tough rally for you?
No, it's fun. I look terrible now, but I've had fun. I mean, we've changed a tyre in 2 minutes. That beats any of these guys here. And my sister's even helped today, which she never does. So, yeah, we've had fun and, yeah, we're on safari, so you've got to expect the worst.
They would face a huge disappointment later in the day. After completing the whole of the rally, the engine management computer refused to allow the car to start for the final transport to the finish, and they were forced to retire. Meanwhile, the race at the front of the rally was full of tension, with the times between the top 3 so close that there was no chance of them easing off. With only 4 stages remaining, amounting to 60 kilometers of competitive motoring, Conrad Rautenbach held a lead of nearly 1.5 minutes, but Andrea Navarro was so close it would be a race to the end. There were still 27 cars running, and for each, the finish ramp was now their only goal. Following their scare at the beginning of the rally, Sushil Shah and Mohammed Khanna had no further problems, and after a superb drive would finish in 10th place. Giancarlo Davita and Sylvia Vindvogel from Rwanda had moved up 2 places on the leaderboard, but apart from that, had an uneventful weekend and would finish 11th.
It's a little bit too tough, and those long straight on is not very technical, but it's safari.
The acceleration of the Toyota GT4 was phenomenal, which must be a real pleasure to experience and a handful to control, but Jaswinder and Ravichana had mastered both and would bring the car home in 14th place. Yogesh Patel, with Keith Henry in a Subaru Impreza N10, was sporting the Mars Bar brand, which made them popular amongst the spectators who cheered them all round the route. They put in a consistent drive to preserve the car for the season to finish 15th. Pano Calavrias and Bill Kirk always put in a dramatic performance, and what they lose out on in times achieved is more than made up for by their enthusiasm. They lost time with punctures and would finish 16th.
I think bad luck all the time. I've just had 2 blowouts today. So, I mean, I don't know what to say. We tried to catch up and this is what's happening.
Ben Mushemi and George Joroge were the highest placed All-African crew in 17th. On the local circuit, they are becoming more and more of a threat to the leaders, and now they have a new car, the expectations were even greater. They were fortunate to finish the rally, completing the final stages without a clutch.
I don't know whether you call it tough or hell. Mostly it's between, I don't know, between us and hell there must be another place. It must be safari.
An unusual entry for the safari was a 2-wheel drive Datsun 180B driven by Ian Freestone and Rod McLean from Britain. The car was built in Kenya and was only on loan for the safari. The crew were taking the opportunity to experience a real safari ahead of the classic they would be entering later in the year. Finishing 21st was a bonus.
So would you say that this is giving you any form of practice for that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, every mile you do in Africa is practice. You know, the conditions are so varied that the more you see, the better you're going to get at it.
The only husband and wife crew in the event were Sonny and Don Smith. The team are competing in all the ARC rounds in 2007, developing the N10 as they go. They had already finished in Tanzania. 20th overall in the safari would gain them valuable points. This was Navraj Hans and Frank Gitau's third attempt in the safari, and having finished well in the previous two attempts, were disappointed that they would come last this year. Despite meticulous preparations, they had broken a tie rod and had lost power with fuel and air filter blockages, and for the majority of the rally had been forced to run at the back of the field.
It's been the toughest rally I've ever had. It's been a very difficult experience, but it's to learn from your mistakes, and we'll just take it as an experience.
Once again, spectators were treated to an opportunity to see the cars in action, and by midday, thousands had gathered around the rim of the East African Portland cement quarry. The stage was the first 2 kilometers of a timed section, which all the cars still running would attempt twice. With so many cars still in the running, combined with the two-wheel drives, spectators had a full day of entertainment.